George Szamuely is Senior Research Fellow at Global Policy Institute and author of the wonderful book Bombs for Peace, NATO's Humanitarian War on Yugoslavia. George, welcome back. Dr. George, I should say. Dramatic result in France. I've asked Gayatri to book the tickets for the Eurostar. We'll have to go through and see Prime Minister Mélenchon. Is that how you see it?
No, actually, I'm sorry to say, I doubt very much whether Jean-Luc Mélenchon will be Prime Minister. It's a very strange outcome because essentially you got a whole bunch of politicians who collaborated and decided that they would, they would drop out in favor of somebody who came in number two, and in order to keep out the National Rally. So you've got that. They've managed to push National Rally into third place, but the downside is you now have a lot of politicians elected to the National Assembly who don't really agree on very much, and they're going to have real difficulties forming any kind of a government. It's one thing to form an electoral alliance to keep out the National Rally, but now when it comes to government, I think it's going to be very difficult. And there are many parties there within, if you count the Ensemble, Macrons Ensemble, and then of course the New Popular Front, there are many people there who refuse to work with Jean-Luc Mélenchon. So I think that the chances of his becoming prime minister are quite slim.
Gayatri, cancel the tickets. The outcome is in complete contradiction to all of the opinion polls, all of which showed Le Pen coming first, and she came last. Give us a picture of how that happened.
Well, I think that what really threw the polling into turmoil was these alliances. I think something like, I can't remember the exact number, but maybe about 230 candidates dropped out.
Over
That's
200,
a huge
yeah.
number. Yeah, exactly. So it's a huge number. And so therefore, by doing that, you skewered the actual final results. And I think the polling just didn't take into account just how huge an impact that would have, getting so many people just dropping out, and then essentially people get a choice. It's either National Rally or it's something else. And so I think that's why the polling was so wrong. However, I do think we should still wait a little bit this evening when the count starts coming in, because there have been times in the past where the exit polls have proven wrong. I think there probably won't be, but one should be a little bit cautious, rushing out and saying that this is the final result.
Does this vindicate Macron's apparently crazy idea of calling a snap election?
I think it does. I mean, if these results hold, then Macron will seem very smart. I mean, everyone was calling him an idiot in the last few weeks, saying, God, this is such a crazy thing. And then he'll say, yeah, I told you that when push comes to shove, the French will not vote for the National Rally. And that really has been true. I mean, ever since, Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, he ran against Jacques Chirac in 2002 and got absolutely trounced. France's elite has been committed to the project of keeping National Rally out of power, and they figure that a very large proportion of France cannot vote for a party run by a Le Pen. And I think Macron still believes that however much things have changed and however much National Rally has become more mainstream and acceptable, that when push comes to shove, France will not vote for a National Rally government.
Well, of course, ontology is important. It's arguable that under Jean-Marie Le Pen, They were a fascist formation. Le Pen, the original Le Pen, was from a family of Vichy Nazi collaborators who sent Jews on the trains to the concentration camps, the death camps, the gas chambers. It was, I think, entirely correct to describe the earlier iteration of the Front National as a fascist formation. Nowadays, Marine Le Pen, well, is she a fascist? She is 100% supporter of Israel. I don't know if that's a qualification or a disqualification. She's in support of NATO sanctions against Russia. She's opposed to sending troops like Macron said he wanted to do. She's no longer proposing French exit from the European Union or from the Euro. She's a bit like Meloni, isn't she? Sort of living on whatever past laurels in the far right, but actually she's just a centrist like all the others, no?
She's a centrist and an opportunist, and that's not a very good combination. And one other thing that you omitted from that list is that she also promised to withdraw from NATO's integrated military command, which is really the minimum that you would expect, at least to recall the great days of de Gaulle, because that's what de Gaulle did. He withdrew from NATO's integrated military command. But even on that, she has waffled. And so, and as you say, when she's waffled completely on Ukraine, well, she's for sanctions, but she just doesn't want sanctions that hurt France. She wants to send weapons, but they have to be defensive weapons, not offensive weapons. So it's all over the place. But to be honest, I mean, a little bit like Macron himself, and like Meloni herself, that is just trying to please all constituencies. But you're right, and her support for Israel is actually par for the course for almost all of the far right political movements in Europe. Whether it's so-called far right, like Geert Wilders, Viktor Orban. And so they're all very, very much fervent supporters of Israel. So it's hard to say what that this far right designation means. The only problem with her, of course, is that she does carry the name Le Pen, and I think however much she has distanced her party from her father, and she's even kicked her father out of the party, she still has the name Le Pen, and when people hear it, they think of her father.
Yeah, maybe she needs to remarry. The situation in Hungary that you described as far right, in quotes, I know that you meant that in quotes. Orban is proving himself to be the independent leader of Europe and speaking for many people, millions, tens of millions across the mainland, when he says, I'm not going to allow August 1914 to be the road to World War III. I'm not going to take the road to Sarajevo. I'm going to go to Moscow instead and see if I can head off the potentially imminent open warfare between NATO and Russia. He deserves a lot of credit for that. What is he up to?
Well, I think he wants to be a mediator, and I think that he genuinely wants peace. I mean, if you watch this interview that he gave to Weltwoche, a Swiss magazine, he says, this isn't about me. I really do want peace. As a Christian, I believe that peace is better than war. And he has over and over repeated that Hungary has been repeatedly dragged into wars through alliances with somebody else. And every time Hungary gets dragged into a war, Hungary pays a heavy price. You got World War I, World War II, and now with NATO. And he said that we can't go through this again. And he's absolutely said, we had two of these horrific wars in the 20th century. Hungary paid a very heavy price in both. We just can't go through a third world war. And what is astonishing is that he gets attacked for this. All of the EU worthies, all of the it was the Kaja Kallas and Ursula von der Leyen and Charles Michel and Chancellor Scholz, they all condemned him for what? For going to Moscow and discussing what can we do to bring about some kind of a mediation? What can we do to bring about a peace conference? I mean, for that, you get condemned. That's the kind of thing you would expect a leader of Germany to do. That's what Germany should be, which carries a lot more weight than Hungary. A leader of Germany or a leader of France should be acting as a mediator instead of pouring gasoline on the flames.
Quite so. How do you think his initiative will have been taken in Moscow? Are there signs that that these were serious discussions, or was it more for show?
Well, everything depends on what happens in the United States. As you know, George, Orban has very good relations with Trump. And, I don't know, but I'm quite sure that Trump probably got on the phone and asked Orban after he came back, what's your impression? Can we work something out? And if Trump is elected in November and he said, I'm going to get this wrapped up before I'm inaugurated, whether he does or doesn't, that's a different issue. But I think he's going to try. And if he does try, I think Viktor Orban will play a central role because he'll be able to brief him. Look, this is what I got from Zelensky. This is what I got from Putin. If you want to organize some kind of a peace conference, I think this is what you need to put forward. So I think a lot depends on in the United States. If Trump wins, I think Orban could well play a crucial role because he is trusted by both sides.
Who'd have thunk it? Viktor Orban, the peacemaker, the mediator, an extraordinary turn of events. Thanks for your enlightenment on the French situation too. It's a fast-moving situation. You're quite right to say that the fat lady hasn't sung yet. So I've told Gayatri to just put the tickets on the Eurostar on hold for now. Thanks very much, George Szamuely, Senior Research Fellow at Global Policy Institute, author of the excellent book Bombs for Peace, NATO's Humanitarian War on Yugoslavia.